Shifting opens up a new world of possibilities for your violin playing. It allows you to access notes higher up the fingerboard, makes it so that you can come up with creative fingerings that might be more practical, and it allows you to be expressive in the way that you shift from one place to another. However, it also introduces complications for the handframe. You know our nice first position handframe that we've been working on for years? Yeah, shifting is going to change that a bit. Don't panic though, I'll be sharing an exercise that will get you playing in tune in new positions in no time. You know you're ready to start working on shifting when you can play reliably in tune in first position with a solid handframe. In my studio, I typically start working on shifting towards the end of book 2. As with all techniques, I like to start working on it months before it will actually be used in a piece. Now, what is shifting? Shifting is any time we move our hand up or down the fingerboard. Unfortunately for us on the violin, we don't have any frets. It's one of the conveniences that we sacrifice as violinists to have more expressive freedom. Not having frets means that our primary tool for guiding our hand into a new position is our ear. As we move from one position to another, we use the aid of a finger and our ear to guide us into the right position. Now, in order to orient ourselves on the instrument, we use the word positions to tell us where we are. As we move up the fingerboard, we move into higher positions. For example, this is first position. We move up a note and it becomes second position. Third, 4, 5, and so on. Now remember how I said shifting introduces variation to the handframe? Let me explain what I meant. As you shift higher up the fingerboard, the spacing between notes gets incrementally smaller. So notes in third position are slightly closer together than notes in first position. This gets more exaggerated as you move up the fingerboard, with notes in 8th position being significantly smaller than those in first position. This means that we need to teach the hand these new hand frames gradually in order to play consistently in tune. Our best tool for this will eventually be practicing scales and octaves, but step 1 for doing this is going to be to get comfortable in each position individually. The first position we are going to work on, and the one addressed in this video, is third position. Just so you know, I like to become a master at shifting by using third position as my guide for many months before starting to train shifting to other positions. We want to get good at the skill of shifting before applying it broadly. And as I said earlier, you should ideally start practicing the shifting exercise I'm going to teach months before needing it in a piece. If you haven't already, I'd recommend grabbing your fiddle and practicing along. I'm going to do some repetitions of each of these exercises so you can get a sense for the pacing and sound that we're after. If you're watching this without access to your violin, when you're done with the video, I would recommend coming back to it when you actually are trying to do the exercises. Playing it with me will help you to get a sense for the release and timing. The first skill we need to master is moving up and down the fingerboard smoothly, without pressure, and without tension. In order to do this, hover your first finger on the fingerboard and apply 0 pressure and slide it up and down the string like this. Be sure your thumb isn't gripping and that you aren't hearing any skips like this. This would be an indication that you are still squeezing too hard. If you're finding this impossible, it may be necessary for you to address the way you are holding the instrument. If you're used to holding the instrument tightly with the left hand, this will need to be fixed in order to shift. I'll link my video on violin setup above. Once you're able to slide smoothly and easily, get proficient at doing the same thing with each finger. Then it's time to add the bow to the exercise. Just like the left hand, there should be 0 pressure in the right hand. We want the sound to be quiet enough that we can hear a ghost note, but our audience can't. Now, the skill that we're practicing of being able to move up and down the fingerboard freely, this is eventually going to become what's called a ghost note, or a guiding finger. The sound that we're after here sounds very ghosty. When we actually shift, we'll be moving very lightly using a ghost note. And then when we hear the ghost note arrive, we'll know we're ready to place whatever finger in third position. Now that we can move freely up and down the fingerboard, we're ready to shift. The first shift I want you to practice is moving from a first finger in first position to a first finger in third position. Here are the steps of the shift that we're going to follow. After finishing the first note, we're going to release a few things. We're going to release the pressure on the first finger, we're going to release the pressure on the thumb, we're going to release the pressure of the bow, and also in a way, we're going to try to release the squeezing in the shoulder. More on that in the intermediate video. After we've released all of the pressure, we're ready to move like we just practiced. When you're moving, be sure that you're not clamping on the fingerboard, and be sure to move the hand as a unit. Imagine that your hand is surrounded by a turtle shell, and there's flexibility within that turtle shell, but we can never break out of that turtle shell. So we can't go back like this, we can't leave the thumb behind. The whole hand moves as a unit. That thumb is really the critical thing to think about here. You will often see the thumb get left behind early on, and that will just throw off our hand frame like crazy when we get into third position. We're used to playing the violin in relation to the thumb like this. Move the whole thing as a unit. The relationship between your thumb and your first finger should stay consistent, and then we'll be ready to play reasonably in tune in third position as well. As you're shifting with the left hand, be sure that the right hand continues to move. I should still be able to hear that ghost note. That ghost note is what's going to guide me into third position. This is critical because without frets, it's the ear that guides the shift. If the bow's not moving, your ear obviously won't be able to guide you. Be sure that this arrival note is in your ear even before you start the shift. Da. If your ear is hearing that note clearly and you're relaxed, your body will learn how to do it over time. Finally, move slowly. You want to move slowly enough that you basically can't overshift. If you're going to err on the side of undershifting, which is easier to fix in real time. So, as you move, the ear is the guide to your shift, listen to the ghost note, and then return the pressure when your ear tells you it's time. Once I hear that new pitch, I return the pressure and I change the bow. And I return the pressure in all of the places where I released it. So I return the pressure to the finger, there'll be a little bit of counter pressure from the thumb, and then the pressure from the bow is also going to return. I'm listening, and I time it. Let's do 10 reps together so you can get a feel for the sound and the release and the timing. I'm only putting 10 reps on this video, but if I were you, I would rewind it 5 times for a total of 50 as you're trying to get a hang of all the concepts and teach your body how to release and move easily. The second shift I want you to practice is moving from a first finger in first position to a second finger in third position. This shift will be the most frequently used type of shift on the violin, moving from a lower number finger to a higher number finger in another position. The ghost note finger will play an imaginary note in third position, which we will over time disguise. For now, it's very important to train your ear to hear this ghost note clearly, so be sure to play it with enough clarity that your ear hears it every time. One unique thing about this shift compared to the last shift is that when we arrive at the second first finger, we're going to be using a down bow again. What's important to think about here is that when you come back to the second down bow, you're simply returning the pressure. So we have pressure, and then we release the pressure, and then we return the pressure, and then we change the bow on the second finger. Release, return the pressure, and then change the bow. You'll get used to it as we do these reps. The same shifting principles apply here. Think especially about releasing and letting the ear guide. The final exercise that we're going to do is the bread and butter shifting exercise. I used this and variations on it for years. This exercise incorporates the two types of shifts that we've discussed in a natural way, and also forces you to play additional notes in third position. This will not only train you to shift accurately, but it will also train your hand frame to play in tune in third position. This exercise can be found in the back of Suzuki Violin Book 2, which is linked in the description, and I've also included the music here and in the description as well. We'll do the exercise on each string, and you should memorize the pattern after a few days. Memorization will be helpful so you can focus on your technique of releasing the fingers and timing the shift with your ear. Here's how it goes. Here's a quick recap of the exercises we did, as well as a practice plan for starting your shifting. I'd plan on doing the first two shifting exercises I gave you 25 times each for a couple of weeks before starting the Suzuki Book 2 shifting exercise. At that point, I'd do the first two exercises 10 times each, and then do the Suzuki Book 2 exercise. Lastly, you can drop the first two exercises and just do the Suzuki Book 2 exercise. I'd probably stick to just doing third position for about 6 months before adding the next positions, which follow the exact same pattern but travel to different positions. Fourth position is the next one that I would address, then go back to second position, and then fifth and all the way up. That covers the fundamentals of how to shift and will get you a long way. However, we still need to discuss the different types of shifts, where to use them, and also how to ensure that your shifts become silent and ever more reliable. For answers to those issues, check out this next video.